Welcome to Carolina Sculpture Studio. My name's Clint Button, and I'm a granite sculptor. Okay, we've got this line established, that little panel done and everything, and it looks pretty good at this point. Now we've got to pitch this. We got to see how this cuts. And this is a trial run because the other side will only be as deep as we cut it. It's already sawed on the bottom, which this is not considered to be the joint. That's the other side. The joint's here. This is the actual joint. And none of this break extends into this portion of it. This is all going to be pitched off. But I've got to smooth this up so I can put a handset and break it and see how it breaks. Now, looking at the way this is fractured, it's probably going to go down. Let me see if I can. It's probably going to break more like this because this looks like it's stacked on top, like it's tipped a little bit there. You always break from the joint in order to understand your stone, because if we break here and it digs really deep, it could knock a really big hole out of the joint, and we don't want that. We want to break this hard. Before I break it, I'll go back along here I'll sharpen the chisel up and I'll cut a super sharp stun right along this, so that if this breaks, that's a weak point and that's a stress riser. If it feels like it's going to go really deep, I won't keep flogging on. I'll hit a couple times and I'll come back and I'll walk it off from up here. But we got to see how this breaks. There aren't any do-overs when you do this. This stone will work or this stone won't work. And if this stone doesn't work, we have to spend the money to buy another piece of stone to do it over again. And I can sanitize this and not show this and pretend it's all happy glory and never have any problems or risk. But this is where the rubber meets the road, people. And if you can't do it, you can't do it. And I'm going to show you whether this is actually going to break the way we want it to break or not. And if this doesn't work, I just got to order another piece of stone, because I've got to make sure that it's big enough, because we got a little bigger stone than we were expecting with the die, which is great, but that makes this a little bit small. So we've got a limited amount of stone we can take off. I don't have a lot of extra stone to waste off. And you normally don't buy stone that has 1,000 pounds of stone extra just for the fun of it, because you got to pay for that, and it's extra work to take it off. So I'm going to move the crane. We're going to spin this stone around so it's pointing towards the suction. I'm going to saw this up and smooth this face off, and then we're going to start breaking it. And we're either going to succeed or we're going to fail. And you're going to see right on the video. This isn't going to be any camera tricks or fancy editing. This is what the real world's like. All right, let me move the crane, get this stone turned around. I got the stone turned, smooth this up, and I just eyeballed approximately 1 inch down to mark the center. This is 10, not 12, so we should be able to break that far on that deep a hit. But we're going to see. I'll start down here on this end. We'll see how it goes. And there's two ways of looking at it. You can leave it sideways like this, and break in and hit it here. You get a better, stronger hit if it was turned 90 degrees, but this way I can start working it and cut here to see how one side bounces to the other. And because we've got a waist off down, this is our final line. So we'll have to chip that in to turn it a little bit towards the end there. And it'll be a little flat on the end, but that's just the way it's going to be. Let's see how this goes. We got almost to the line. But this is also pretty rough. This is all rough. looks like 1 inch is going to carry it. Yep. Come in from the other side. Breaking pretty straight. Okay, when you've got a hump, you got a hump right here. If I take this point and I put it in the bottom of that hump, I'm going to create a stun that I can't get rid of. So what I want to do is I want to stay up. Try to pick somewhere strategic, stay up. And walk it off. And then if I get a stun, it's on top and it's something that I can pick off later. And you don't leave all the wetness. So you end up with a nice clean piece of stone. All right, I'm gonna probably turn this stone so I can really break it. Make sure to pick up all your cords when you're doing this. If you're busting off razor blades that might weigh, well, depending on what you're cutting, they can weigh 100 pounds. So, get your program together. We're playing. Yeah, see, that goes way past the center. Walk your way back in. And hit it like you mean it. by using a heavy hammer, when you've got to take off mass, you'll end up with a lot better finish, because the hammer will do the work. If you have to push that hammer, you're gonna run into weakness issues. If you can let that hammer do most of the work by having 6 pounds just going at it. I tried running an 8-pound hammer like this, and it usually shatters the handles. The handles, even if you never miss, the handles will just fray. So they have to have a longer handle to flex to handle it. But 6 pounds is a nice balance. If this was pretty, I'd put a straight edge on here, but this is the bottom, so it's not as big a deal. A little crooked here, no big deal. Chipped it with a straight edge. That's pretty good. Now I'll flip this over to break that top half off. Should be good. This is why you have to pick the cords up. Those things will cut your cords really fast. I'm pretty happy. This will be a little blow here. I think the time we break this in, it shouldn't be as big a deal. Let's flip it over and break the rest of that. Okay, we'll see how this light shows. Took my chisel, got a really hard line right there to cut that, to create that stress riser, so it's got a place to go. And what I'm going to do, because I haven't cut this back, I can only get on here to a certain point. So for this lower stuff, I'm going to use this handset. And I'm not going to get this yet. I'm going to leave that till we cut that corner off. Let's see how this cuts. I want to break this out here, try to leave a hump so I can push it and try to get into the middle of that. See if it'll work or not. Now we can go back in here and chip this. And don't just keep hitting it and crushing stuff. That's not what you want. What we want is this broken face, basically for the people at the cemetery to bump into with their lawnmowers and their weed eaters. That's why this is here on the bottom. This is a security blanket. Now up here, where I can tip a little bit, get on here with my big hammer and big handset. And I won't go as straight, I'll have it angled a little bit so I can use the benefit of having where this is broken out and angle it towards the front. I want to show you something. Okay, my strap was odd and usually it's not in the way, but instead of picking up and down again, I just set it down for now and I'll work around it. Look at the way this grain is running. See how it's tipped? from the joint up and it's coming out. As we go up, it's coming out. Okay, what that means is on the other side, we kind of got lucky because breaking hard here, it ran out. Over there, breaking from the joint is going to run in. And so we've got to make sure that we've got a really good line check when we start breaking, because it's apt to go farther than we want it when we break it. But knowing this, knowing that's how the stone's going to break, it's going to be phased the same way on the other side. So where it runs out towards the top from the joint here, it's going to run in towards the top from the joint on the other side. So that's even better news for trying to do a short break. Should work good. We just got to be careful we don't take too good of advantage of it. So let's keep breaking stone. Now the same thing goes, it broke down this side. The same thing goes for this corner. If I carry this here and break all the way to that corner, I'm probably going to cause some wreckage. So I'm going to go over here and I want to tip that corner in and break it in, because I don't want to blow it off and lose control. And I've got this hump right here pretty well isolated, but if I can break that in a couple of breaks, I should be able to have a pretty good corner. Okay, think, don't just get enthusiastic and going. Same thing when you've got a hump or something you got to clean off. Don't stick your tool down in the bottom of it and start flogging it. You'll leave a big old white stone there to make you look like you don't know what you're doing. You want to look like a professional and not leave any marks on there, so everybody's scratching their head and wondering what you did. Let's break that corner in. Okay, see, I was lucky because I had that flat end. Now I'll just chip that off. We got a pretty decent corner, but see, if I'd really hit that, that's starting to run. We're going to come back in here about 2 inches, so that's no big deal. But you got to understand that, or it can go bad really quick. Okay, we've got this pretty well all cleared off. There's a little hump near the end here, but we still have to pitch that corner, and so I'm not going to worry about that because we're going to be hitting and breaking in here. It's probably going to take some or most of that off, so think ahead. Now, there's a couple places on here, right here and right here and right here, right here, where there's a little bit of a stun, a white mark. Now, I told you to stay up. Don't go to the bottom of the hump, the bottom of the hole, to try to break a hole out. It's like digging yourself out of a hole and you're scraping the panel in an accident. What you do instead, go back at the end with a really sharp point. Like this is what I use for shooting points when I'm pointing. I'll go at the very end and just put a little dot and put a dab in there. We'll be using these a lot. It's just a drill that's sharpened to a point. And this was actually, I guess it's chipped just a little bit. This will be okay. Look at your stun, and if you did it right, it's not at the bottom. There's stone at the bottom that's okay, and there's stone above it. This is where the white is. So go on and stay on the high points with a light hammer and just pick them off. And you'll be surprised how much of that little stun will just disappear because you picked it off with a point. Don't go back in there with something big and heavy and flog on it. It'll look like crack. Don't sandblast it, because sand will cut this stone and leave a different texture. And anybody that knows what they're doing, a professional, will look at it and see that you went ahead and dusted it to get rid of your point marks. Now, I know people do that. If that's the way you do work, that's the way you do work. It's not what I do. I don't like to sandblast the marks off. I don't like to flame them off, because the flame can cause the stone to have a different color. But you'll find areas where it's soft, where it's fractured, and you can go in and pick it off, and you can stay up. And by doing that, all of your marks will typically go away with the wasted stone, and you won't have anything there left that anybody will see. And if you did have a big white line, you may be able to just break it in half or 2 or 3 pieces and nobody will ever see it. You may know it's there, but they won't. And if you got something that's on a crack where you were pitching it, and you got all these lines and these little cracks, don't hit the mark. Stay up on top of the crack and break it off, like I just did there. And then if you've got a white stone, it'll be up on the top edge on the corner, and it's easy to pick it up. And you can just make them disappear. You'll be a lot happier in the end. But you can get a piece of stone and go ahead and flog on it. Take hand point, put some point marks in it, break it up, and take a little sharp point, see if you can pick them out. Get good at it. It'll make your work look better. And that's finishing stuff that sculptors don't know. But anything you've got for an edge, go ahead and true it up. You have a really nice edge. And by using a small hammer, it doesn't impart as much energy. It won't break as deep. You can get a pretty nice stone. So now what we got to do, we're probably full up on this video. Now you got to do this same thing over here. And what we're going to end up doing is we're going to figure in 1.5 inches over here. I think I can get enough break to where it's running the way it's running, because it was lifting over here. That means from the joint's going to break in. So I think if we go 1.5 inches over here, we'll be okay. I got to saw that in, get that ready, and we'll break that, and then we'll break the ends. But I'm going to lay this out and try to figure 2 inches here and 2 inches here to have at least, for the cove, have at least 1/4 across the top. And it's going to be really tight on the die, but that's what it is. So we should have a good stone. But go check the time on this, but I think we're probably good. My name's Clint Button here at Carolina Sculpture Studio with a Virtual Stone Carving Apprenticeship. Thanks for coming in.